Good morning, children. A big hello to you all. So, I hope you have already seen the video which describes the causes of globalization. Why the globalization has entered in a new way in every parts of the world. So today I will first start with the different agricultural items that were a part of exports of India. So in the beginning, when this export trade started during the British time and even before that, it was mainly limited to growing of spices, and the farmers were encouraged to grow spices. Our southwestern states especially are noted for growing spices, and of course apart from that, different varieties of precious stones were also exported out of our country. In the first half of 19th century, we mainly exported opium. Opium is used to produce different kinds of drugs. It is an agricultural product, and this opium, children, nowadays we also consume in food. The other term, when it is consumed in the diet, it is known as khaskhas or posta dana. So this opium, which is an agricultural product, then raw cotton used to go in huge quantity. You all know very well that cotton was a very important item of export. Then raw silk and sugar. Now this cotton became the main item of export during the British rule, and the main reason was that it used to support the cotton textile industries of Britain. When this British came to our country, they stopped the production of every handmade goods. Like our farmers used to weave khadi in their homes, they totally stopped that. They took away our cotton forcibly from the farmers after paying them a very low price. So in the Manchester and Liverpool of Britain, there was the cotton uh, textile mills, and our Indian cotton used to go there and it used to be processed. Children, you will be surprised that cotton is such a comfortable fiber that even in British during those days, the elite class was only allowed to wear cotton. Even the middle class or the lower class were not allowed to wear, and it used to be costly in their country. So cotton fabrics were mainly owned by the elite class of Britain. And in India, they of course used to flood our market by the machine made cotton cloths, and they totally destroyed our handloom industry. This is well known to you all, children. Now, apart from this cotton, they forced our farmers to grow indigo. So, indigo is also known to you all that the Champaran movement took place because the farmers were forced to grow indigo. The Champaran movement took place in 1917 in Bihar, and the farmers were promised that they will get a rich return because this British will buy from them and it will go abroad, and they were all shown different kinds of prospects by the uh, British rulers. But the farmers knew very well that the growing of indigo will totally destroy their fields. And after one harvest of indigo, the farmers were unable to grow food grains because the nutrient of the soil was totally exhausted. Now, what for was this indigo needed? Now, children, in those days, there was a acute scarcity of dyes, especially blue dye. So from the term itself, indigo, children, you can make out it is a blue dye that was used for coloring of the clothes. At present, children, indigo is used to color the jeans or the denims that you know very well. At present, children, the uh, agricultural exports of our country have increased. Now, one thing I missed out, children, the leaves of the indigo plant were generally used as a dye. Currently, India is no doubt exporting different kinds of products like the basmati rice of India goes out. Cotton, of course, has been a very important export product of our country till date. Sugar, jute, maize, wheat, oilseeds, all of them are exported out of our country. But still, our farmers face a lot of new challenges these days due to the globalization, and our farmers are unable to compete with the highly subsidized agriculture of the European or the American countries. Now, I have already discussed about subsidies in the previous lectures, that subsidies greatly help to reduce the cost of production of the farmers, and it is like a financial support to the farmers. I would still like to again repeat the same thing, that why subsidies are necessary for the farmers. Now, subsidies are necessary in our agriculture to encourage production of certain products. Like, for example, subsidies are given on fertilizers, subsidies are given on pesticides. So, the industries also benefit, as well as the farmers are also benefiting because they are getting the product at a lower price. Then sometimes what happens, there are crop failures, like there may be some disease, or there are sometimes natural calamities. Now when this occur, the farmer has to face lot of financial losses. Now when the farmers have to pay less money in producing, because the subsidies are there to support them, so that means the farmers are facing lesser losses. So this helps to reduce the risk that the farmers face due to crop failure, natural calamities, because a part of the production cost is borne by the government. So it helps to reduce the risk that the farmers have to face. Then, of course, as I said, the cost of production of the farmers is also reduced. So what is a subsidy? In fact, a subsidy is in fact a government incentive. Incentives are given to encourage. Like suppose your father says that I will give you a gift if you come first in the class. Okay, so it's like an incentive. It's a government incentive paid not only to farmers but also to agri businesses or organizations, and it helps to supplement the income of the farmers and manage the supply of agricultural commodities and influence the cost and supply of agricultural products or the raw materials used in the agricultural sector. So subsidies are very much necessary to support not only the farmers but all those people who are connected with the agri business, that is also the industries, those who are producing these inputs like chemical fertilizers and pesticide, and hence it indirectly influences the cost of these inputs and supply of these inputs also. Not only the farmers are benefiting, the industries are benefiting, those who are producing these inputs, and also influences the cost and supply of the production of these inputs and the supply of these inputs. Now, children, your book says that after 1990, the farmers have been exposed to new challenges. So, despite being an important producer of different agricultural crops, like we are producing rice, cotton, rubber, tea, coffee, jute, spices, our agricultural products are not able to compete with the developed countries because of the highly subsidized agriculture in those countries, in the European countries as well as in USA, because the number of farmers are less. They are industrialized country. The farmers get support, full support from the government, because their number is less, and to reduce the cost of production, the country supports these farmers. Now, in the next paragraph of your book, there is a sentence: Indian agriculture finds itself at the crossroads. So, children, crossroads means a place where there are different directions. Like we in Hindi, you call it as chauraha. And the farmers are baffled, they are puzzled as to what to do. They are puzzled whether to carry on with this traditional age old farming, or they will try to adopt different means. Now, let us see why the Indian agriculture is at crossroads. See, 50% of India's population are engaged in agricultural activities, but development in this sector is very less. That's why the farmers are puzzled, they are baffled. There is no proper use of technology in the country due to illiteracy and awareness, due to lack of awareness. So, our farmers, they do not have awareness as to how to use technology, when to use what type of technology. They do not have any idea about the latest machineries. There is continued dependence on the traditional means and also the traditional ways of farming, in spite of introduction of so many reforms, in spite of so much of counseling through TV programs, through radio programs. The farmers still continue to depend on the traditional method of farming, traditional means of farming. Whatever tools are there, they are traditional, because the majority of the farmers are poor. Apart from that, children, when the farmers go to the banks to take loan, they hardly get the support, because many of them do not have the collaterals, they do not have the supportive documents for the loans. Then the government also do not support the farmers timely, because of the influence of different political groups, or sometimes the landlords, the rich landlords may be there, who influence in such a way that the government officials do not come to the help of the farmers when the farmers really require them, because of the influence of the political netas or the rich landlords. Now, due to excessive loss, many Indian farmers are now committing suicide because they are in debt. They are in the debt trap. They have taken help from the moneylenders or the landlords, and now they are unable to repay them back. So, the Indian farmers are so much puzzled now that they do not know what to do, what option to take, which way to go. So, the Indian agriculture is at crossroad. So, Indian agriculture find itself at the crossroad. The reason is that the farmers of our country are illiterate. They are so conservative. They cannot adopt the modern means. The farm size are small. They do not get the loans timely. Their repaying capacity is very poor. The government officials are unable to help them because of the influence of the different political groups or the netas or the rich landlords. And due to this excessive loss, children, sometimes the farmers are compelled to give up their lives. They commit suicide. Now, what is required most important to make our agriculture successful is to pay attention to the marginal and the small farmers. So, the condition of the marginal and small farmers is very pitiable in our country, but most important, who are they? Who are these marginal and small farmers? The marginal farmers are those farmers who own agricultural land. I will not say own, I will say those who cultivate agricultural lands up to 2 hectares, that is 2.5 acres of land. So these marginal farmers can be the owner of the land, he can be a tenant of the land, or a sharecropper of the land. Sharecropper means like some people are cultivating together, and whatever the produce or the yield comes up, the farmer share along with the other farm workers. So marginal farmers are the farmers who work on land which are 1 hectare or even less than 1 hectare. So 1 hectare is 2.5 acres of land. And who are the small farmers? The small farmers are the farmers cultivating agricultural land of more than 1 hectare but up to 2 hectares. So between 1 to 2 hectares. That means from 2.5 acres of land to 5 acres of land, we call them as small farmers. So the condition of in this case also, the marginal farmer can be the owner of the land, the marginal farmer can be a tenant of the land, the marginal farmer can be a sharecropper of the land. To make agricultural sector of our country successful, the government's utmost duty is to improve the condition of the marginal farmers and the small farmers. So children, I will stop this much here itself, and I will give an answer to the questions that I had given the previous day. Now children, the first question that I had given was what type of technical support helped to boost the farm productivity. So here you have to write all the technical reforms that I had given in my notes. So you can write any 5 technical reforms like Green Revolution, White Revolution, and then this construction, development in technology, in weather forecasting. So all the technical reforms. Then my next question was, why did it become necessary to improve the rural infrastructure and what facilities are included under this? So it is necessary to improve rural infrastructure to better the connectivity between rural and urban areas, and most important, to provide the basic facilities in the rural areas, to uplift the living conditions of the rural areas, to improve the standard of living of the rural people, and to boost the agricultural sector, which is basically based in the rural areas. So that is the most important reason why it has become necessary to improve the rural infrastructure. There is a link question in that, what facilities are included under this? So rural irrigation, roads, water supply, electricity, internet connectivity, rural housing, all these are the facilities which will come under this. What are the main aims on green and white revolution? So this also I have given in my notes, children. Main aims of green and white revolution, you can write it easily. Then in the current situation, mention the challenges of our farmers, especially after green revolution. So in this reduction of subsidy by the government in fertilizers, then your poor employment generation in agricultural sector, then reduction in public investment in agriculture, international competition in agricultural products, then reduction in import duties on agricultural products. This 5 points. I'm again repeating: poor employment generation, reduction in public investment in agriculture. Third point, international competition in agricultural products. Fourth point, decreasing subsidy on fertilizer. And fifth point, reduction in import duties on agricultural products. Now the next question was, why stagnation in agriculture sector is cause of alarm for India? Now for this you have to write, children, stagnation in agricultural sector is a cause of alarm for India because it will lead to poor national income, poor standard of living for the people, especially of the people who are there in the agricultural sector or the primary sector. Poor employment generation, of course. It will also indirectly reduce our earning from export trade. It will also affect the other sectors of the economy, like the secondary and the tertiary sector, because the industries which are producing the agricultural inputs or the industries which are processing the agricultural products, they will also be affected. And as the trade, internal trade will also be affected, because there will be no earning or poor earning. I will not say no earning, I will say less earning or poor earning from this sector. So the other sectors will be affected. So it's a cause of alarm for India because of poor earning from the agricultural sector, poor employment generation, degrowth in the export trade of agricultural products, poor standard of living, poor national income, and as I said, the secondary and the tertiary sectors will also be affected, thereby affecting the internal trade and the total national income of the country. So children, please match your answers. If you have not written, write down the answers and continue to study and read your subject and be prepared for the half yearly exam. So thank you children. See you soon again.